Hey Kev, let's follow this trail over here. This looks like there might be something waiting down there.
All right. Hey, wait a minute. Do you hear that?
Yeah, I thought it was just me. What the heck is that?
I don't know what that is. Whoa, do you smell that too?
That's unbelievable. Hey, look.
What the?
Hey, look, those branches are moving over there.
What the heck is that?
Holy cow, is that what I think it is? Look at that thing.
Oh my God.
It's a freaking Sasquatch. Welcome to the Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters podcast. I am your host, W.J. Sheehan, author of the series of books, Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters, 38 volumes in audiobook, paperback, and ebook. And there are viable links to all of these books now on our website, BigfootTerrorinthewoods.com. Just click the link of what you're looking for. It'll take you over to Amazon, exactly where you want to be. And be sure to go on our shop page now. All kinds of cool stuff there. Hoodies, t-shirts, magnetic bumper stickers, cups, hats, you name it, we got it. Go over there and show a sign of support and buy something for you or your friend. And now, may I introduce you to my brother and co-host, KJ Sheehan. Kev, how are you?
I'm good. How about you, Bill?
Marvelous, marvelous. I was just saying to you before what beautiful weather we've been having over here. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and I sent you a picture. We didn't talk about it yet, but an hour or so ago of a big coyote.
Yeah, I like that.
Hanging out right next to my house here.
Yeah, I like that little guy. He's, it's amazing to me how some of these wild animals look so sleek and like groomed.
Yeah, no,
he didn't look ratty looking at all.
He's
Almost
a
like
good-looking beast. My friend's got a big Pyrenees dog. One of those monsters.
Yeah,
it's like a 200-pound golden retriever like dog, and his name is Hank, and Hank was going nuts, barking out the woods. So I went out there, and Hank's master was like, Hank's got a coyote right there in the woods. And what was weird was this coyote was just sitting there for like 15 minutes or standing there for like 15 minutes, like 20 feet into the woods. And he kept looking over to his left, and we were wondering if he was trying to lure Hank in because maybe all his buddies were over to his left.
Could be, right?
Yeah, pretty creepy.
Yeah, like an attack,
Well, and that's the coyotes, they adapt like crazy. That's why they're all over the place now. And they used to be lone hunters, but they learned how to hunt now in packs. Because it used to be a coyote would just get like a squirrel or a field mouse or something like that. But they take deer down now in order to survive. But they can't take a deer down by themselves. So they had to learn to be more like a wolf and hunt in a pack. It's pretty amazing.
It is amazing. And if you get like, 6 or 8 of them jumping on you and biting you, they could wound you quick.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember watching a video clip of 2 big wolves scoping out some bison in Yellowstone. And they were in the snow.
Yeah.
And they were like walking around them and this and that, trying to get the bison to move. Like just... you could see the bison were getting edgy. And the bison started to move, and then they started to, like, kind of trot along in the snow. And, of course, these big beasts were furrowing out the snow, and then the wolves went into that furrow so they could move. Like they were snow plows, and the wolves got up behind the last one in the line and started biting at the tendons on its legs.
Yeah.
They crippled it, and then that was it.
Brutal.
And the other ones just kind of kept going. I mean, the law of the wild, they just go and one gets taken,
Yeah.
That was amazing to watch.
Don't have to be the fastest one. You just got to be faster than the one behind you.
Exactly. And it stands true for bison, too.
Exactly.
So, Kev, I got something pretty cool. You remember, folks, if you're a regular listener to the podcast, the last podcast, I read 2 accounts from a fellow that was a guide for 30 years on the back of Pikes Peak. And I actually had 4 accounts from this fella. And today I'm going to follow up the other 2 with his other 2 accounts. Really just quite incredible that you would find such an individual that had so many encounters with the hairy man. So I'm going to begin with his 3rd encounter, and this actually occurred again in the same region of Colorado surrounding the other 2 Pike Peak locations. And again, I call this guy Jeff. This is what Jeff had to say. It was in January of 2002, Bill. The season for elk, mule deer, and black bear having ended in December. I was sitting around the homestead with my bride, and I was already getting a little antsy. When you spend thousands of hours in the woods annually, I do not know what to do with myself at the season's end, which probably had a lot to do with my marriage ending in a divorce. The mountain lion season would be over at the end of January, and I had 1 tag left to fill. My wife, being well familiar with my behavior, said to me, "Go ahead and fill it," and off I went. My destination was to be a place known as the Lost Cabin, near Pikes by Cathedral Park. Because of my status as a guide at the ranch, I had access to private land, which allowed me to hike into the area in about an hour and a half. Without that access and using only public land, it would be about a 10-hour hike through some arduous countryside for any outsider to access this cabin. Now, most guys who hunt lions use dogs to track and tree them, but I, on the other hand, always preferred to track and hunt on foot with my bow. Precisely what I was doing on this occasion. There was about 2 feet of snow on the ground when I put on my snowshoes and began to hike. And before I had even reached the midway point of the trek, I picked up on a blood trail in the snow, which led me to a freshly killed deer slightly buried in the snow. I knew this was a lion kill, and that it would return in the morning. It was late in the day when I found it, so I continued my hike to the cabin. I planned to rise early and stake out the scene of the kill, taking the lion when it came back for its prize. This cabin was nothing more than a box, which I and some other guys had put a 50-gallon drum in, modifying it as a fireplace. Built after the Civil War, it was initially a gold miner's cabin that during the 1930s era had become a moonshiner's cabin. Sometime during that time frame, it burned, after which, during the 50s, a family took up the task of rebuilding it, and today it is part of the national parkland. Excuse me. So I had arrived late in the afternoon, with it getting dark earlier because of the sun setting behind the mountain. I went about getting some wood and starting a fire for the night. The cabin was made of logs, having no windows and a tin roof. All the men who occasionally made use of it hunting in the area, of whom I knew most of them, agreed that when you came here, it was expected of all to leave something behind that would be helpful to the others. On that day, I had brought waterproof matches and toilet paper. During the night, I hunkered down, hoping to get some sleep before rising in the early morning hours, when the sounds of some miniature rocks hitting the tin roof had occurred. The cabin was built on the side of a mountain, and I thought there were some mountain goats above me carrying on and kicking the stones up, causing them to fall on the cabin's roof. A short while later, what sounded like a burst of buckshot hit the roof, much louder than the first go-round, and still I thought the goats had done it. Bigfoot not entering my mind at the time. Not long after that, one colossal stone hit the roof with such a crash that it caused me to jump, after which the howls began. There were no windows in this cabin. I was now hunkered down in the corner with my pistol in hand, always carrying a gun when hunting lions. There was a louder, deeper, more masculine-sounding howl coming from behind or above the cabin, followed by a more screaming cry from some distance away. Back and forth they went on until finally they stopped. Now I was thinking of Bigfoot and could not wait for daylight to break. There would be no lion hunt in the morning, and I hightailed it out of there at first light. Short and sweet, Kev. What do you think of that?
That's something else, Bill.
Yeah, just bizarre, huh? And this is coming from a well-skilled hunter. Obviously in his brief observation, he's thinking initially some goats are kicking some rocks and they're spilling down and getting flung off the side of the mountain onto the tin roof. But then with this other activity, it was very deliberate, like something saw him go in the cabin and was warding them off, whatever they were doing, especially with the larger rock getting bashed into. Can you imagine being in this thing by yourself in the dark and something just hammers into the roof like a freaking bowling ball?
No, but we've heard, I can't imagine it, but we've heard stories of that forever.
Yeah,
really.
Rock throwing in Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Now, so
and again, up in Pikes Peak, super rural place in Colorado.
Yeah, and you remember they had access to literally millions of acres of land because of this guide camp and guide school. I guess they probably paid for some access to the millions of acres of private land, but then they had access to, I guess, what would be federal land, too, in the millions of acres.
Sure.
So much more bountiful area to hunt in than like you or I would have, Now, so what happened was this place got shut down for some impropriety, which we don't have to get into. And he moved on. The whole place just folded up, and he moved back down south where he was born and raised. Now, this fourth account came from down by the land between the lakes. And this was his last encounter, at least for now, evidentiary findings to be more exact, which occurred in the LBL, as it's known, he having moved to Tennessee from Colorado. As I repeat now and have always said, those with one encounter generally have more than one regarding Bigfoot, angels, UFOs, ghosts, or whatever type of otherworldly activity may be the case. The facts are what they are. No matter where Jeff is, he is hunting and spending time in very remote areas of the country, sometimes alone and in the dark, while other times he's with friends or clients. And as you listen to what I say here, try to plug yourself into Jeff's world, at least for this short moment in time. As you know, Bill, following the collapse of the guide ranch due to the ownership's financial impropriety, I had relocated to Tennessee, where I was brought into this world, in other words, where he was born, as the hunt continues with me where it had all begun. I'll be heading back to New Mexico, Colorado region this fall to hunt mule deer in the high country. So we will see if anything happens during that trip. Now, this was all a few years ago, folks. The land between the lakes region in these parts comprises approximately 180,000 acres of dense forest overlapping Tennessee and Kentucky. The area is steeped in all kinds of history and tribal lore regarding Bigfoot, Dogman, and all sorts of other phenomena. Now, folks, this is coming from a highly skilled professional hunter and guide, which, growing up here, I never paid much mind to, which is to say, until I had all the experiences while guiding and hunting in the Pikes Peak region. In the fall of 2017 or 2018, my buddy Justin and I were going into the LBL to deer hunt. Justin was heading down from Michigan for the week, and I had gone into the woods the day before his arrival to set our tree stands in place. It was October. I had just set Justin's stand on a ridge above the bottomland where I would be, an area named Wildcat Hollow. The two of us would be about 300 yards apart during the hunt. And being as we were so close to civilization, we still had cell service, which would allow us to text message each other during the hunt. This locale was only a mile from the Tennessee River, which in these parts turns into the Kentucky Lake, a dam having been built many years ago. Justin had arrived late in the day following my setting up the stands for the two of us, and the following morning we were in place some 300 yards apart, an hour before sunrise. The leaves had just begun to fall, most still clinging to the branches as we sat, watched, and listened for any activity. That's when we heard the first tree come crashing down. I heard a large crack, followed by the whooshing noise of the tree falling through the canopy surrounding it. Justin texted me almost immediately, asking if I had just heard it, which I did. It had happened virtually in between our two positions, which at the time I did not give much thought to. Only a short time after this, a second tree came crashing to the ground. This time it was more like a free fall, with none of the whooshing sound, only that of a tree hitting the earth with a loud thud. Now, you know, Bill, how much time I've spent in the woods hunting since my youth. And in all that time, I could only remember hearing one tree fall, while in this short time, we had just heard two, and it was not over. Just a short time later, I heard what sounded like a tree being pushed back and forth, with numerous cracking and snapping sounds to go along with it, followed by the inevitable crash to the earth. By 8:30 in the morning, the tree felling had ceased, and we had seen 0 deer in the woods. Justin and I had texted each other to meet in the middle, so to speak, to find the tree that had come down close to our positions. I found the tree. It was about 20 inches in diameter, appeared to be in excellent condition with the leaves still on it, having been snapped and splintered at about the 5 to 6 foot level from the ground, showing no internal insect or rot damage, as well as no lightning strike evidence having happened in the past. It was a healthy, large tree. As the two of us stood there looking at it, Justin asked me what I had thought happened. I breached the subject of a Bigfoot being the culprit. he would have none of it. After which I argued, what would have the power to snap the tree at that height from the ground without being able to leverage it from a higher level? So I commenced to shinny up a narrower tree to the point where my weight started to bend it over, at which point it snapped and splintered, virtually at the same height and in the same way this larger tree had. Justin just stood there and shook his head, saying nothing. He did comment on how still and quiet the forest had been that morning, a fact that supported something being around that the other wildlife did not like. The following morning, I had put an arrow through a nice doe and texted Justin that I had done so. After waiting about 20 minutes, I climbed out of the stand to begin my track. There was apparent blood and tracks. Bear with me here for a second. Easy for someone of my skill set to follow, which brought me down to the edge of a creek. This creek was only ankle deep, and having walked through it to its other edge, the tracks and blood had ended on the first side I had approached. The deer, having not crossed the creek, was gone. Whatever happened to it had occurred next to the stream, a spot that could only be seen when you walked into it. 3 days later, Justin had texted me BBD, which in our terminology meant big buck down. He had run an arrow in one side of this buck and out of the other as it bolted into the hollow, heading away from his position. Blood came out of both sides of this animal as we began our track, which continued unbelievably for several hours, ending where the tracks and blood stopped, going up the opposite side of the hollow. And the buck was nowhere to be found. Just as my doe had vanished by the creek, so Justin's buck had disappeared without a trace. And here's the real kicker, Bill. If what I have said so far is insufficient, weeks before this hunt in the LBL, I had read about a game warden who had a ranch that he owned not 10 miles from where we stood, who hired a man with a backhoe to dig something up on his property. I do not remember if it was a cesspool, a drain pipe, or whatever. This man, working the backhoe, was being pelted with rocks while he worked on the property. So he had called the warden, thinking he was screwing around with him. But as they spoke, the warden said that he was on the other side of the lake, far away from the house and the man. Having arrived back at the farm, the warden, now standing and talking with the machine operator, experiences for himself rocks now being thrown at him and the operator. At the same time, his daughter was standing on the porch and said to him, "Hey, Daddy, what's that?" When the men turned to where she was pointing, 3 Bigfoot creatures were standing on the side of his field, fully visible to all the parties present. My conclusion, Bill, regarding this matter is that there seems to be a population of these critters in the surrounding area, as crazy as that may seem to some, performing various activities regarding human interaction. Talk about bizarre, Kev, huh?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of hung up on the 20-inch diameter live tree snapped off.
Yeah,
I'm trying to picture that. Like I'm looking at my computer screen here on the desktop, and it's about 20 inches, and I'm like, be tough to snap that off with like a tractor.
Yeah, I have no idea, but this is what he said.
I know.
20 freaking inches.
Yeah, and then the concept of that, like he's saying, it's hard to believe, and we hear that before that there's more than one of them together, but of course there are, right? I mean, we always, well, not always, 9 times out of 10 we hear of one being seen, right, going all the way back to the paddock film, but there has to be more than one.
Of course there has to be.
Wherever there's one, there's really many.
Yeah, and if you think about as we go along here, there's so many accounts that I haven't touched on where one guy even claimed, we did that Ziggy Stardust one, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah.
Where they found that choke point between two, like a ravine, and they found a deer with a broken foreleg and neck. The fella who had taken him into that area, taken him under his wing, so to speak, and brought him to that area, said that he believed that Bigfoot were funneling deer into that area and then getting them when they got to this choke point and killing them.
Yeah, a little kill zone kind of.
Little group effort.
Yeah.
And why should that be any different than a pride of lions?
Sure.
Or us
Or
talking
like we were talking about earlier, wolves, coyotes, whatever.
Right. I mean, they are ingenious. They know what they're doing. To what degree, we don't know. We're not animals, but they certainly are programmed by God Almighty to
They have to eat.
They got to eat. They got to eat. So it's amazing, though, huh? And how about this warden on his own property scoping out and seeing 3 Bigfoot that were exposing themselves to him, the operator, and the daughter in such a way that they could all visually see them and know what they were looking at.
No, that's wild. That's wild. That's really rare, right?
I've never heard of it before.
Yeah.
The only, the only time I heard of anything like that was the cabin, the gold miners' cabin on the side of Mount St. Helens in
Ape Canyon.
Ape Canyon.
What became Ape Canyon, right?
Right, where multiple creatures had been seen assaulting the cabin.
Right, and this was daytime, right? When the warden saw it?
Yeah, I mean, the guy's operating a backhoe. He wasn't doing it at night.
Yep.
I mean...
Wild stuff.
And I've always said, Kev, all of these shows, they go out hunting for the Bigfoot at night. Frankly, I don't understand that because it adds to drama, right? For sure, walking around in the dark, you can't see what you're looking for. But why wouldn't they be out walking around like a pride of lions during the day? Stalking their prey, hiding behind logs on a game trail and then leaping out or, whatever. Why wouldn't they be out during the day hunting something down?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not a game expert by any means, especially compared to some of these people that you talk to and that write in. But, a lot of these animals, they're most active at dawn and at dusk, but not necessarily in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
I mean, there are nocturnal critters, and I got my mind on the coyote, right? Because I just saw him here right in front of the house. But, like coyotes, for example, a lot of people here think that they're nocturnal, but they're most active right at dusk and right at dawn. Like the sun was still up when I took the picture of that one.
Mm-hmm. I think they're kind of catching things, just awakening for the day, and maybe as they're settling down for the night.
Yeah, maybe when the other critters are a little tired or whatever. Same thing, by the way, with fish. Like we have a rule out here on the ocean because we swim so much. And, by the way, the surfers always break this rule, and I hope nothing happens to them, but they're mainly doing it because they have to go to work and they have to surf when they come home from work. But you really don't want to go in the ocean in the morning or like at around 6 o'clock or later.
No, absolutely not.
You can see the critters feeding like crazy.
Yeah, there's no way you want to be in
like
the feed.
Here on the North Carolina coast, the dolphin are very visible, right? Because they have to breathe at the surface. And you'll see them hunting in the morning, and you see them hunting, at 5:30 in the evening. And of course, when there's dolphin around, that's a good sign because usually they chase the sharks away. But I'm sure there's sharks around too.
Yeah, well, we like to think they chase the sharks away,
Exactly.
right? Remember the old Flipper show, right, Kev? Flipper, the dolphin down in Florida Everglades or whatever. He always used to get in a scuffle with a shark and
Give him a little bop on the nose.
beat him with his bony nose and kill him.
Give him a little poke in the gills.
Yeah, take him out.
Yeah, Flipper the hit dolphin.
So there you have it. 4 separate accounts. And if you include the warden's sighting, 5 accounts, all regarding Jeff and his exploits. And he's still out hunting and doing things now. The last time I spoke to him, it seems he got a girlfriend. And I tried to catch up with him twice. And both times I caught him with his girlfriend. One time he was out to dinner. Another time he was doing something or other. I got to get back at him and see what's been going on.
Yeah, he's got the hot hand for seeing the critters.
Yeah, well, like he said, Bill, you know how much time I've spent in the woods since I'm young. And he blamed his divorce probably on the fact that he was never home,
Sure.
So his wife was like a hunting, what's that word they use?
A mistress, right?
No, a hunting widow.
Yes, a hunting widow.
Yeah, like that, where the husband's never home.
And hunting was his mistress.
Yeah, hunting was his mistress. There you go. So what do we have, Kevin? Cryptids in the news and other oddities.
Yeah, we're going to get a little freaky deaky, Bill. But more in terms of like a public service announcement.
Oh.
Which you're going to like.
Okay.
So this week, I was reading a newspaper, and it brought me to a link in the Smithsonian Magazine. So our friends at Smithsonian.
Okay.
And the headline of this Smithsonian Magazine article, get this, is "The Tiny New York Town Where Mediums Give Voice to the Dead."
Oh, boy.
So I said public service announcement.
Yeah. All right, let it rip, brother.
So there's this little town. I never heard of it before. We'll see if you have. For the last 75 years, it's been the home of about 40 mediums. And I don't mean medium versus small or extra large. I mean mediums that talk to the dead.
Okay.
Or claim to talk to the dead.
All right.
And the name of this town... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think they're talking to something else that's very much alive.
Well, I know. That's what's scary
Uh-huh.
to me. Terrifying to me, actually.
Uh-huh.
So the name of the town is called Lilydale, 2 words, and it's about an hour southwest of Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
So kind of, not on the shore of Lake Erie, but kind of following parallel the shore of Lake Erie, southwest of Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's about 40 of these mediums in this town, and they call Lilydale, get this, the world's largest center for religion of spiritualism.
And this has been going on for 75 years over there?
Since 1879.
Wow, much more than 75 years.
Well, more than since 1879. But in 1879, the town was founded as a spiritualist camp.
Boy, oh boy.
Kind of like a day camp, only you go there and talk to the devil. We have arts and crafts, devil conjuring,
Yeah, well, I'd like to say whatever floats your boat, but it may be sinking your boat.
No, but Bill, this is my public service announcement twist here, is apparently a lot of people go there to get in touch with their dead relatives. So this little town, the population is only about 300. So to me, it's a pretty evil place, right? If 40 people out of 300 are mediums or claim to be mediums.
Yeah, that's
And each summer, 15 to 20,000 people come there to immerse themselves in the practices of what they call spiritualism, but it's really, talking to evil spirits.
yeah. I think you're 100% correct in that.
Yeah. So have you heard of this town before?
Never.
Never. Me neither.
No, but it doesn't shock me because there are little enclaves all over the globe of people that are delving into the black arts,
Yeah.
and it's labeled differently everywhere. But the one thing that is always troubling is like I'm a very spiritual person. I'm not religious.
But you don't practice spiritualism.
Yeah, they just open themselves up to
I know.
all kinds of chicanery
Yeah.
when you're in the spirit realm and you don't know what you're contacting with certainty. You're really walking a fine line as far as I'm concerned. Now, folks, you may have your opinions, and again, Kevin and I are just talking. Obviously, we're speaking for ourselves. But anybody who listens to this podcast regularly knows my feelings about these things. I that whole thing is like really sketchy.
Oh, yeah. No, we're going to get there more and quote a couple of things from the Bible, Bill, which I know you know well, more so than me, that where they come straight out and say, don't do this for lots of good reasons. But here's a quote from the author. She was interviewing a woman called Willa White, a second-generation Lilydale registered medium.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that's pretty creepy, right? Willa White, was she a good witch or a bad witch?
Yeah, I don't know.
By the way, no witches were harmed in the making of this podcast. And Willa, I'm not messing with you, okay? I think I like you, Willa. Just stay away from me. So this woman, Willa, says, people come and they haven't felt their loved ones around them. And I'm able to help them connect. And they're like, oh my gosh, that really is my mom. That's my dad. And that's my son. Whoever it is, it blows them away. Mm-hmm. It makes them realize that the love hasn't died.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least something is making you think that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Now listen to this, Kev. You know my friend Philip. Philip, I know you listen and love you, bro. And Phil, if I mess this up, you correct me when we talk, okay? Philip was hunting in the mountains of Appalachia, I believe it was. And at night when he would sleep, he'd climb up in a tree and rest in the boughs to get off the ground. And he was up there and heard something calling his name that sounded like his father. He swore it was mimicking his father, and his father was not there. And it was after that that he saw this this shape-shifting creature walking below him on the ground. Came into view. And he stayed still, not looking to attract attention and whatnot, and this thing went walking by. So, the Indians, the Native Americans, many of them have said, don't go to something calling your name. Don't whistle. Just different things like that because of the high strangeness that can occur around that. I told you, Kelly, if you're listening, love you guys, Dave, you two. I think I told you, Kev, Kelly was outside of the shop behind his house in Oregon and heard a woman's voice calling his name. And I I had asked him, did it sound female or male when he told me about it, and he said female. So then one day his wife was out in the shop with him, and it happened when they were both there. And she had commented, "What was that?" It's been going on. I'm trying to figure it out for myself, honey. But I said to Kelly at the time, I bet you this thing heard your wife calling you in the shop. I was
mimicking.
I was now mimicking Kelly. However it sounded like.
Because he responded to her.
Right.
Yeah.
He probably, or it probably heard him say, "What do you want, honey?" Or saw him exit the shop of the barn.
The channel of communication.
Yeah, and it was copying him.
What a creep fest.
Yeah, and this is why the indigenous people say, if something calls your name, don't answer it. In Philip's case, the voice of his father, and he knew it wasn't his father calling him, so he just remained quiet. And this creepy creature with antlers on its head,
oh my God,
came walking through the forest below his position up in the tree.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So,
I promised freaky deaky, but that's downright creepy.
Yeah, well, that was some kind of demon, witch, shapeshifter, something evil. It was up to no good, obviously,
No doubt about that.
And it wasn't something that was trying to make you happy or joyous in its appearance or anything else. This crap is just downright evil.
So, by the way, experts that talk about this, and I don't mean only religious experts, but definitely I would put religious experts in this camp, that, they state unequivocally, attempting to raise or communicate with the dead is a practice fraught with peril.
Yeah.
Okay.
Necromancy.
Yes. And the risks associated with such endeavors range from spiritual damnation, and this one is the creepiest, I think, demonic deception.
Yeah.
Severe psychological distress, and unforeseen paranormal consequences. How's that for a statement? But this demonic, deception, that's the scariest one to me.
Yeah.
Like here, it's preying on these people that are desperate in their grieving process to talk to their loved ones. And then they hear their loved ones, or they hear what they think is their loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And they try to bring you in more and more. It's like a fish chasing the bait across the bottom.
Oh, no, yeah.
And they just, you give them an inch and they're going to take a yard.
Yeah. And by the way, and Bill, I promised this at the beginning, and you can elaborate on it, but, this concept of talking to the dead or trying to talk to the dead is, forbidden inside the Bible in many different places, which that's a surprise to some people, I think, that, having a seance, like, specifically, I looked it up that in Leviticus, it states, do not turn to mediums or spiritists. Do not seek them out to be defiled by them.
Mm-hmm.
I am the Lord your God, and the consequences for such actions were severe.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, well, King Solomon conjured up the spirit of the Witch of Endor. Sounds like something out of a Harry Potter movie or something, right? The Witch of Endor.
I was thinking that was from Bewitched, her mother-in-law, but that wasn't Endor.
That was Endora.
Endora.
And I don't think that was any accident. Somebody probably had a little knowledge of what I just said and said, we're going to name her Endora. But as far as Solomon was concerned, that was kind of on the beginning side of what would be the end of his reign.
Yeah.
So once you start to go down this road, probably not going to end well. I mean, there's always a chance to turn around, right?
It's a slippery slope, though, Bill.
Yeah.
And once you got these critters like creatures, demons hanging around with you, man, that's not a good thing.
No, there's all kinds of nastiness out there. And you're better off avoiding it altogether. And I say about the Bigfoot creature, I think there's two things going on there. I think there's a flesh and blood creature, and then there's something mimicking it for a variety of reasons. And I have no proof of that. It's just a hunch. My opinion versus yours and anybody else's,
Great.
Wow, man. Wow, that's what a crazy place, Kev, huh?
Yeah, pretty creepy stuff. Some great accounts, Bill, and some creepy stuff in good old Lilydale. I won't be going there on vacation. Even for a research project for our podcast. No, thank you. But we got some good listener mail, Bill.
Yeah, dig in.
First one comes in from Mary. And Mary says... She references episode 315. Bigfoot scares the crap out of a family. She says, "Hey guys, I thought you'd find it interesting to hear that my dad used to put dried split peas in his 12-bore shotgun. It was very effective at scaring off roaming dogs on the farm. Thank you for the great shows. I love listening to all of them. Regards, Mary." I mean, Mary, did that work if the dogs really liked peas?
They were sitting there with their mouth open.
I mean, I had a Labrador that loved tomatoes. So, like, if she loved peas, like, she might come back and say, "Give me some more. Come on, bring it on."
I remembered hearing when I was younger, Kev, about farmers blasting people in the butt that were trespassing up to mischief with rock salt.
Yeah, no, that's true, man. We were out in Ohio many years ago when I went to school out there, and farmers were shooting at us with rock salt and shotguns.
No kidding.
Yeah. And we were just out doing a little tipping of cows. Sneaking up on sleeping cows and tipping them over.
No kidding.
Yeah, no cows were harmed. They were
just flipped over.
They just tipped over.
But listen, if you think about it, at close range, a load of dried peas could pelt you pretty damn good. I'm sure it would have a bite.
As soon as a gunfire starts going off, I'm not hanging around to see what's in the shotgun.
Yeah, let me pick one of these out of my butt and see what it is.
Yeah, let me see. Is that a pea? All right, but thanks, Mary. And one more, Bill, an important one, coming in from Michael. So he wrote in, WJ, happy birthday. Of course, by the time this podcast drops, your birthday will be firmly in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
But Michael says, I was excited to hear that you and my oldest son share a birthday. I hope that you have a great day. And Michael's from Memphis, Tennessee.
All right, then, Michael. Thank you very much for the belated, well, it was a timely birthday at the time.
Exactly.
Wishing me well, but thank you very much, man.
Yeah, we can't blame him for that.
Well, we can.
Well, true. True.
We can, so we will.
Yes. So great podcast, Bill. And folks, please keep those 5-star reviews coming. Thank you so much for listening to. And keep writing into us at Bigfoot Terror in the Woods. Contact us if you have a question or if you have a comment about one of our podcasts. We love hearing from you. And of course, if you have an account, Bill will reach out to you and start to talk to you about it. And we will keep your identity confidential, of course.
Absolutely. And folks, please go to the shop button, buy some of the merchandise, hats, mugs, whatever you like. A lot of cool stuff on there. And remember, if you find yourself in the LBL, the Tennessee side or the Kentucky side, or anywhere else for that matter, you best remember one thing, my friends. Always carry more gun than you think you're going to need. Sleep tight.